Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lex, and I would greatly appreciate if you would consider supporting the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there and it inspires me to keep creating. Just want to give a huge thank you to those of you guys who rode with the recaps for the first week. I know that it was super confusing. I know there was a lot going on. Just a reminder, I am a one-woman show. If I Freudian slip and accidentally mix up two names really quickly and correct myself, please have some grace. It is the first week of the season, and this week was extremely confusing. That is universally agreed by anyone who's watched the feeds. This week was very confusing. There was a lot of alliances, a lot of people being pulled different directions, a lot of things made, then not made, a lot of people saying stuff and then changing their mind. So it was just a confusing week overall. First week of Big Brother tends to be like that. And keep in mind that we are coming into the house on day 6. So they had been in the house for nearly a week before we as feed watchers were actually able to see what was going on. So a lot of this week also included piecing together what they had been talking about or what they had been forming while we did not have feeds. So thank you so much. There was just a couple of little comments that were like, well, you mixed up this name or something. And it's like, I am a one-woman show trying to condense down 10 plus hours of feeds into a narrative that semi makes sense for people, and ultimately just here to talk about a show that I love. So please have some grace with me, but thank you to those of you guys who came back. I saw a lot of you guys from last summer that were in the comments again talking. Hello! So excited to see you guys, and I'm so excited to get into this season. Today's recap should be a little bit shorter. We are going into week 2 into the house, which I think will definitely show us a little bit more who lies with who rides with who, give us a little bit of a clearer picture of what the sides are and where people want to work. And I think it is going to be quite interesting. We had a new HOH, we had some powers that were launched, and of course, prior to all of that, we had an eviction episode. So let's jump into it real quick. We shouldn't be here for super long though. So Thursday morning before the vote, we had a few little conversations. Remember, we were coming off the heels of that fight between Zay and Rachel. That was kind of the big night ending thing. So there are a few little straggling conversations around. Jimmy and Rachel, they do have a conversation about the fight. Rachel's just recanting everything that happens. And the same thing. Jimmy also had a conversation with Zay about the fight. Zay is talking about how he didn't feel like he did anything wrong. He was just asking questions. And again, Zay, my answer to you is whether you were wrong or right, you don't stand on the block and then ask people to take out their enemies. I just think that is a horrible gameplay move. It does not make sense. Threatening people while you're on the block is definitely not the way to go. They do have a bit of a conversation about Keanu though, and Jimmy talks about how he really does like Keanu. He feels like he trusts Keanu now after they were able to hash everything out in the backyard. He feels like him and Keanu are on good terms. And I was like, do you really mean that, Jimmy? Or is that just kind of something you're saying to Zay because you know he's gonna get the boot? I just found that to be a very interesting conversation. But anywho, we also had conversations between Vince and Adrian.
Don't accidentally say something and then she gets thrown off.
No, I
because it's a little too late.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Like, it's not to withhold anything from Kelly, but just to keep her focused.
And they also go over the votes in the morning. And once again, they're saying, well, this person has this vote. This person has that vote. There was just a lot of these little conversations where everyone went around and they were trying to count out votes. They were trying to figure out what it was going to be. And much of the house was under the impression that the vote was going to be split 7-7 if it ended up being Zay versus Amy on the block. But of course, the plan was that most people wanted Zay to win, so that way they could just vote out Kelly. Zay does give a final campaign to Will, and Will is essentially like, well, I mean, I can't really say that I'm going to be the person that's going to drastically change things. I still don't really know where I'm at, but I definitely hear you. I definitely hear what you're saying. And we do soon see what Will actually does within the votes, which I thought was fairly interesting. But let's jump into this eviction episode real quick. Feeds go down. Eventually, it reaches 8 p.m. and we get to see the eviction show. A couple of you did ask if I do individual recaps for the eviction shows or just for the TV show in general. I do not. And the main reason is because the TV narrative does not always match the narrative of the feeds. And I don't want it to be confusing for anybody that's watching the feed recaps if I recap the TV show or vice versa. I just don't want it to be confusing. So I stick to the feed recaps personally, but I will talk about any relevant things on these feed recap videos. So let's talk a little bit about Thursday's episode. First off, we got a little clip of the mastermind. And my question is the mastermind going to still play into the game? Is the mastermind just a one-time thing? Is the mastermind like Janky, where he's going to be a main facet? We get this pre-recorded clip of the mastermind sneaking in while they were sleeping type of thing. We see the Zay and Rachel fight on the show, and they cut out a lot of it. They cut out a lot of one-liners. I think one thing to note with this fight, and check out my feed recap from yesterday, where I go more in depth about the fight in general, but the fight was very awkward to watch. Neither Zay nor Rachel is really the off the dome, one-liner, argumentative type. They both are very, very awkward when it comes to that kind of thing. So watching the fight, they would yell something at each other, and then the other one would think for a while and then say another line, and then the other one would think and say something for a while, and then like Zay would stutter and say something. It was a really awkward fight. So the show really boiled down a lot of it, but I do find it weird that they took out some of the flat one-liners. I feel like it would have made for a very funny type of thing. So we get to the BB blockbuster, the most important part of this episode, in my opinion, one of the most important. And what was the competition? I'm glad to know I was not the only one that was confused by this blockbuster competition, because I genuinely had no idea what I was watching. I was like, am I not picking up on things, or is there something that I don't get? But it seems that we were not actually able to see the screens very well because of how it was zoomed in on all three of them. They would kind of pan to all three of them doing the puzzle. But anyways, the puzzle was something where Kelly had to steal this crown, and she did end up winning it in seconds. I mean, Kelly smoked both at Amy and Zay. So of course, Kelly comes off the block, leaving Amy and Zay as the nominees. So it's Zay versus Amy on the block, and at this point, again, this was this scenario that most of the house did not really want. There were definitely some sort of outliers where it wasn't exactly clear where their votes were going to go. People such as Will, people such as Riley, and even people like Zach, because Zach had at one point said that if it was getting too close or if he knew they didn't have the numbers, he did not want to be on the wrong side of the house. So of course, both sides give their speech. Amy's speech is pretty stereotypical, pretty run-of-the-mill. Zay does give this speech, though, against Rachel, the wild, explosive speech that Keanu and Vince were talking about that he was going to give. He did give that speech, and we get straight to the vote. Let's jump into everybody's votes real quick. So Riley voted out Zay. Did anyone else think that was a little bit interesting? I feel like Riley is weird because he's in the Burger Boys. You think he's working with the quote-unquote other side, but also Riley was one of those people where a lot of people complained about the fact that he didn't really talk a lot of game. He didn't want to be in a lot of game talks. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Jimmy voted out Zay, as expected. So did Rachel. Kelly voted out Amy. Of course, we knew that was going to happen. Zach also voted out Amy. And I thought that was interesting because, again, I don't know if Zach was under the impression they would have the numbers, but he did say if the numbers weren't there, that he was willing to flip. So maybe no one filled him in. Now, Morgan voted out Zay. Adrian voted out Amy. Keanu also voted out Amy. Mickey voted out Zay. Will voted out Amy. Ava voted out Zay. Kat voted out Zay. Lauren voted out Zay. And lastly, Ashley also voted out Zay, and I was happy because Ashley was a little worrisome. Mickey had to really sit her down and be like, girl, they are not trustworthy. Do not take this deal that he is offering you because he's going to come for all of your allies. He's not trustworthy. Yeah, you might be safe, and then what happens? It was one of those things where it's like, sure, you're safe, but then you have no allies, so you're essentially still dead in the water. But ultimately, the vote is 9-5, and it is 9-5 in favor of getting out Zay. Now, Zach, he starts sobbing. I was like, oh my. And I'm not judging him for showing emotion. That's not the problem. Man, woman, however you identify, you could show your emotions in any way you want. I think what's always shocking to me, because you see this on Love Island and other shows as well, where they live in a house together or they live in close quarters, how close people get in a matter of like 7 or 8 days. It's always crazy. But when you're with these people 24/7 and you don't have your phone, you don't have distractions, all you really have is each other, I think the emotion does hit. We also see Riley crying, and I'm like, Riley, you voted him out? So needless to say, Zay is voted out of the house, and one of the similar named guys is gone, girl, because all of these similar names this season is crazy. So the feeds, of course, are down for quite a while. For us Eastern time zone people, how y'all doing this morning? Because the feeds were down for a very, very long time. People were speculating that maybe it was an endurance comp. I don't think it was. It didn't sound like it was an endurance comp, but whatever it was, we do finally get the feeds back to our new HOH.
Well, so this is where I'm confused because
Jimmy. And you know what? I'm excited for a Jimmy HOH. I am. I really want to see where Jimmy is going to go, because we know that Jimmy sort of started the week last week with the heavy hitters, more on that quote unquote other side of the house. But slowly throughout the week, he gravitated way more towards the girls. He even has that alliance with all of the girls. And it doesn't really seem like he's as aligned with that side as he once was. So I'm actually quite curious to see where Jimmy is going to go with this HOH this week. So we come back to the feeds with Keanu and Jimmy having a conversation. Jimmy is putting on his best acting classes, talking about how he does not know who that 5th vote was to get out Zay. I'm like, it was you. It was you, Jimmy. Anywho, he's telling Keanu, look, I'm not going to promise you anything. I definitely need to sit and think on things and figure out where I want to go. Because, of course, as you know, Keanu's trying to schmooze up. He wants to make sure that he's safe for the week. But Jimmy's telling a lot of things to Keanu that he might want to hear, that Kelly's good to work with and things as such. Overall, though, he does make it pretty clear to Keanu that he might have to go up this week. Okay, but he's not 100% sure. It's not quite there yet. And of course, Keanu is not happy with that. But what can you do, Keanu? I feel like Keanu is in arguably one of the worst spots in the house right now. So there's not a whole lot that he can do. We do find out that Mickey and Amy, they are have-nots. We see them in the have-not room. And Kelly, Kelly and Keanu both were given some kind of power during the competition. So we find out there are 3 powers in the game. However, Jimmy, Rachel, Zach, they all think that it is actually Will that has that 3rd power. So Kelly's power, we do not know what it is yet, but she gets something if she finds clues around the house, and we do find that some other people found clues earlier during the day. The 2nd power is Keanu's power, and he gets a power where if he's on the block, he has double the chance to win veto. The 3rd power is Will's, and it is also not very clear what his power is yet. But in either event, we do have that HOH crew, Morgan, Jimmy, Zach, Rachel. They're all discussing the powers and how Keanu and Kelly have them. And again, remember, Keanu and Kelly right now are front runners to go on the block. Essentially, I guess, to flush out the powers. I think they're also easy targets. I think Kelly will be a target no matter what every single week, in my personal opinion. I don't see Kelly having an easy ride because, again, Kelly is a person that is actively disliked in the house, as well as Keanu, in my opinion. I think the two of them are actively disliked by people. And so I think they're definitely both going to be sort of the easy choices to put up every single week. So in either event, they start to get into Keanu's power because they think he has the ability to take a person off the block, or they think he has the ability to choose somebody else's, like change the nominations. That's what I mean. So they start to go into who it would be possibly. It's not really relevant at this point because that's not actually what the power is. Now, Mickey and Morgan, they are talking in the bathroom as the HOH crew that I just mentioned is talking up about how they think Will has the 3rd power. Mickey actually admits to Morgan that she has the 3rd power.
they said that they highly suggest that I don't. Obviously, I trust you, but like they were like, me telling someone could be like very detrimental to my game, basically.
So she can steal steal an HOH if she does not like the nominations. The catch is whoever the current HOH is gets 3 minutes to talk to every single person in the house. And if they can guess who has the power, then the power is null and void. So very interesting this week. We have some different little twists going on, and we are going to definitely find out where things are going to go. So both of the two of them, they agree that they would like to keep Catherine at this point over Lauren, because once again, they feel like Cat will follow along better, follow directions better. They always say this, she'll do what we want, essentially, a lot better than Lauren will. So I guess Lauren is on their radar. But overall, that is kind of where we end the night. The house guests are not up for super duper long. Rachel and some other people are talking about finding clues. They found like the little timer that we saw in episode 1 under the stairs. They found a rope, a bone, I think, some other kinds of stuff. But overall, pretty uneventful night because the feeds were down for most of it, but everyone is sleeping. Today is going to definitely be interesting to see who noms are and to see how these different powers sort of shake up the house. So if you made it to this point in the video, that means you like the video. I would greatly appreciate if you would consider supporting the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there and it inspires me to keep creating. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys in my next recap. Bye!